That's what I'm talking about. Come on, sucker. Let's get it on.
Hello, my name is Tim Black for TBTV. Thank you for tuning in to Tim Black's Let's Get It On. Let's get it on with white supremacy, ladies and gentlemen. Jemele Hill of ESPN sent out a series of tweets that has the whole world talking. She called Donald Trump, the president of the United States, a white supremacist. Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. Trump is the most ignorant, offensive president of my lifetime. His rise is a direct result of white supremacy, period. He has surrounded himself with white supremacists. No, they are not alt-right, and you want me to believe he isn't a white supremacist. Next tweet, 8 o'clock. No, the media doesn't make it a threat. It is a threat. He has empowered white supremacists. See Charlottesville. Next tweet, 8:01. How is it a false narrative? Did he hire in court white supremacists? Answer, yes. 2 more to go. 8:02. He is unqualified and unfit to be president. He is not a leader, and if he were not white, he never would have been elected. And last but not least, at 3:11. Oh, this is by ESPN. The comments on Twitter from Jemele Hill regarding the president do not represent the position of ESPN. We have addressed this with Jemele, and she recognizes her actions were inappropriate. And I think that's Jemele, not Jemele, Tim. Okay, it's important to know that these tweets didn't just rock the world in Twitter land. No, they also started echoing all across the internet, and they went so far as to cause a splash in the White House itself. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders on Wednesday struck back at ESPN's host Jemele Hill for referring to President Trump as a white supremacist, calling the comment outrageous and saying she should lose her job. Now, before we get into the tweets themselves or into this term of white supremacy and try to determine if Trump is in fact a white supremacist or not, let's look at the definition. That way we can all know what we're talking about. White supremacist is defined by Merriam-Webster as a person who believes that the white race is inherently superior to other races and that white people should have control over people of other races. You'll look at many other online dictionaries and find similar definitions for the term. The Cambridge English Dictionary defines it as this: the belief that people with pale skin are better than people with darker skin. So that's what white supremacy is, and that's what it's defined as. And if you ask me, what does that mean? Well, it means yes, Jemele Hill is correct. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. But that would also mean that any president of the United States is a white supremacist, including Barack Obama, including Bill Clinton, because they all perpetuate the domination across the globe of American interests over other countries in a thing called American imperialism. American imperialism is the idea that it is the economic, military, and cultural philosophy which states that the United States either directly or indirectly affects and controls other countries or their policies. Such influence is often closely associated with the expansion into foreign territories, particularly those territories of people with brown and black skin. Oh, no, I know I'm feeling the heat right now. People not liking it. It's the truth. This is what American imperialism is. You really think we're in these other countries because we are giving humanitarian aid? Do you think that's why we're there? Do you think that's why we went to Iraq? Do you think that's why we're in Afghanistan? Do you think that's why we're in Syria? What do you really believe? What about Honduras? What about Haiti? What about all these other countries whom we constantly meddle with? The United States is in 130 countries right now. There's only 195 countries on the globe. We're in every country. We're not there to play backgammon. We're not there to play spades. We're not there to talk about Game of Thrones or power or none of that. We are there because we want to dominate. We want to make sure our interests are best served in those other countries and have our fingers on everything around the globe. Now, that's just on the military-industrial complex angle of the game. Let's talk about domestic policy. White supremacy. Are we living with that domestically? Is that what's going on? Is that Trump's ideology? Well, I ask you this. Estimates generated from the 2013 round of the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finance indicate that black households have 1/13 of the wealth of white households. Let me say that again, because a lot of people like to, I don't know, that maybe they, just to make sure we understand. The Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finance indicates that black households have 1/13 of the wealth of white households. We have concluded that the average black household would have to save 100% of its income for 3 consecutive years to close the wealth gap. White parents have far greater resources to give their children via gifts and inheritance, so that the typical white young adult starts their working lives with a much greater initial net worth than the typical black young adult. They call this intergenerational effects, which are blatantly non-meritocratic, not meaning based on what you do with your life. Meritocracy, where you get benefits for what you do, merit. No, based on genealogy, based on what you inherited. And if you look at the legacy of slavery, the legacy of Jim Crow, the legacy of segregation, the legacy of discrimination in this country, which still proceeds up to this day, would you call that white supremacy? How is it that black people are only 1/13 the wealth of white folks in America? What would that be if it's not white supremacy? Now, you can call it what you want to call it. You could call it classism, making sure the 1% stay paid. Well, that was done under Obama. It was done under Bill Clinton. It's being done under Donald Trump. That's just a fact. Now, it may sound horrible, but it is reality, because it is horrible, but it is also reality. Blacks with college degrees have an unemployment rate almost as high as white high school dropouts. Blacks with college degrees have an unemployment rate almost as high as white high school dropouts. Now, why do you think that is? We just said that, so let's leave out all the allegations that black people don't work hard enough and they're lazy and they'd rather play Jay-Z records and smoke weed. I just told you, black college graduates who went to school, who graduated, have an unemployment rate almost as high as white high school dropouts. Now, if that's not white supremacy, if that's not racism in action, if that's not what it is, I don't know what is. I don't know what you want to define it as. So Jemele Hill, based on my analysis, is correct. She's spot on, but she left out other people. She should have included Obama. She should have included Bill Clinton. And to that, she would probably say, well, Obama's not the president and Bill Clinton's not the president. And if that would be her counter argument, I would accept that. But I would say, where were you a year ago? Now let's talk about Charlottesville real quick, because a lot of people like to point to Charlottesville, and I understand why they're upset. They saw some Klan rallies. They saw these things. Here's the point. Here's the thing. The Klan is not on an uptick. Charlottesville is no indication of the Klan being on an uptick. I've looked at the Southern Poverty Law Center website. Did you know in 1920 there were 4 million Ku Klux Klan members? Now the number's around 5,000 to 8,000. There was a historic march in 2015 of the Klan's rally, which included splinter groups like the neo-Nazis, Confederate this, Confederate that. It was not covered in mainstream media to the extent as it was covered recently in Charlottesville. Now you have to ask yourself, why was it not covered? Why was no one talking about these historic marches that were going on in southern states by Confederates, by the Klan, by neo-Nazis? And why now in Charlottesville will we having so much of a focus put on these people? Now, this is anecdotal. All I can tell you is that I think the media has a vested interest in getting more ratings from Donald Trump, and they will attribute to Donald Trump any type of label they can. They're attaching racism to Donald Trump. And yes, I agree. I agree with Jemele Hill that Trump did use dog whistles during the election. What was the rhetoric about Muslims, the rhetoric about Mexicans? In the past, he's made some comments about blacks. But push all of that aside. Donald Trump is the president of a country which definitely, positively, unequivocally is about making sure America, a white country where white people control 92% of its resources, 92% of the wealth is maintained by white folks, continues to dominate the world. Now, if that ain't white supremacy, what is it? And if you don't have a problem with it, it's probably because you're a white supremacist or you benefit from it in some way, or you just don't got time to watch this video and you'd rather be upset than deal with the truth. I'm Tim Black, and this has been an edition of...
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Come on, sucker. Let's get it on.
Subscribe to this channel, become a member of my wolf pack here. Go to patreon.com, Tim's Take Live, and I will see you on the next one.